October 11th. And let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we'll start with the student update.
Yes. Parsons, do you want to introduce our students?
Our student representatives are here really for the dress code, so we don't have a summary yet for student representative.
Okay. All right. So do you want to go right to public comment? Sure. Does anyone have any public comment before we begin? Anything on the agenda? No?
Okay. So we will recess public comment. It will stay open for half an hour.
Okay.
So if anyone comes in and wants to comment, we'll have that opportunity.
All right, sounds good. All right, so representations for the ecology school. Which I heard was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to be very brief because we have a very excited pair of students here that want to share with you all the great things that happened at our ecology school last year. As many of you know, before COVID, part of our traditions here at the middle school was to take our 6th graders to ecology school, and then unfortunately with COVID we weren't able to do that, and it's back. Our teachers rallied. They put so much time and effort into the planning of this trip. It's just, it was a huge undertaking. They did it with enthusiasm for our students, and they went last week and had a fantastic time. Lots of learning, social emotional learning, academic learning, all kinds of learning, from washing dishes to sleeping in the top bunk. So I'm gonna let them tell you a little bit about what they learned and why it was so important for them to go, and hopefully a tradition we can continue, keep it rolling through the years. So we have Trevor Greeley, and we have Gabe Woolley, and we have Alyssa Dow, who will kind of do the presentation with them. So I'm going to welcome them all up here and share their trip to the ecology school up in Saco, Maine.
So hi, I'm Alyssa Dow. I teach 6th grade language arts. Oh, sorry. I teach 6th grade language arts, and you guys would like to introduce yourselves.
I'm Trevor. I'm a 6th grade student, and we went to ecology school last week.
I'm Gabe.
Okay. So if you take a look, this is the ecology school mission. We learned a lot about the relationships between organisms with one another. We'll see some pictures where we explored what those relationships look like. We explored ways that we can build communities. We approached a lot of a hands-on exploration. We were outside every day. We did 3 lessons a day, morning, afternoon, and even in the dark of night with no flashlights. It was really, really awesome. So let's get into some of the things that we have. So this was like our arrival. I kind of liked that it showed the different areas. They had dormitories. There was a little yurt village, which was nice for us to explore when it was raining. They had like the meeting room where we all gather. The dining commons was the area where we had our meals and rec time, and we also got to interact with 2 other schools during our time there. So this is an example of the assignments during dining times. Do you guys want to speak to that? So Trevor, I know you're featured over here.
Every day at the meals, there would be a meal sponsor. Like, meal sponsor of that day was farmers and how they grow their crops and support food chains so we can eat our food. So every day you would pick someone, you would go up and talk about the food sponsor of the day.
So there was also another way to build community and independence with our students. So Gabe, would you like to chat about the second picture here, what's going on? The students are raising their hands.
Yeah, so there were setups and cleanups. The setups would set up the tables and serve the food to everybody else at the table. And the cleanups would take all the dishes and the food. And all the food and napkins would be composted, and the
day after, they would pick one table to do a little sweeping, like fun little musical sweeping thing.
They called it a dance party.
They called it
But you were cleaning.
yeah. So they would do that, and then
So this is more of the sponsors, and what I liked is every day we built a piece of the puzzle of the meal sponsors, so it showed all around the world how we get the sources or the resources that we need for the meals to happen. If you can take a look here, there's some students who are playing some roles. I believe those were our weather reporters. We did a morning weather report. There were pirates stuck on the Saco. So they were seeing, is it a good day to sail? Is it not such a good day to sail? So each morning at 7:45, students volunteered to take a look at our weather. And then this was the dining. So it was family style. It really built a sense of community with our students. I feel like we bonded really well. I got to dine with many different tables. Everyone just had their jobs. Nobody complained. They got their food. They served. How much would you like? How much would you like? What was really great, though, is at the end of the meals, what did they do with all the food, the scraps and stuff that were left over that kind of let us know about our waste? Do you want to talk about that?
every day they would count how much.
After every meal.
After every meal, there was they would take all the waste that was the food on your plate and count it up till how many pounds you had it. Then the next meal, they would flip the whiteboard around and show you how many pounds of waste you had in the previous meal.
So it led you to make smarter choices about how much you take, and knowing that, like, oh, it was one day it was like, I don't know, 14 pounds of food. After we knew that, then the next day I think we got it down to like 6 or 8 pounds. So it made the kids be more aware and conscious of what they're taking and how much waste is created at each meal. Do you guys want to go and spatula?
No, the golden spatula is like that. So at every meal they would give out the golden spatula, and it gives you immunity to the dance party.
They had the cleanest table. They did a great job. I think it's because Mr. Felch was there doing everything. I'm just kidding. The kids all cleaned. It was great.
So before every lesson, they would do a little presentation which has like the ecology school actors. So they would act as different characters in the lesson to show you what it means to be a part of an ecosystem, or show you like, hey, I'm like, as you see in that photo, there's a mushroom and like a little garden.
So these were some pictures of the activities during the day. They broke off in separate groups. There's the little shot of the kids reacting to some of the acting going on. Down here was a scavenger hunt. They did workbooks. They went to the farm. We had a rainy day, but that didn't stop anybody. It was really great to get out in the elements and experience and feel the nature. We were all drenched, but it was fine because we had some rec time to dry off and change clothes, so that was pretty good. We got into some of the trails. Do you guys want to talk about the waterfront?
Yeah, so there was like water testing, and they would test like the water quality, which was like the pH, how much acid and chemicals are in the water, and they would test the turbidity, which is like how clear and clean the water is, and they would test the temperature of the water.
So at this point, this is the farm that we visited, the ecology school farm. And here kids got, so you see Trevor's on here. Kids got to taste things right from the ground. I believe these guys were tasting sage. Was it sage at this time? Some groups were lucky enough to taste some spicy peppers. Some of them were very brave, not so much maybe. What were these called? Ground cherries?
Ground cherries.
Yeah, so they tried some of these right off the farm there, which was really great. Some foods that we've never heard of that were pretty awesome. This was one of the activities for like water ecosystems. They talked about different creatures in that area. They had like some live creatures in a tank there. Yep, so this was when they were testing out the water, again, looking at some of the other creatures. And then some photos from our night activity, again, starting off in the amphitheater. And then we ventured out over there. There was a night to
So, at one night lesson, we were talking about the solar system and how, and the planets and how far away they are from the Earth. And everyone had a notebook which you would do some assignments in your lessons. So they did create a constellation when they had some when your instructor had like beans or rocks and they threw it on the table and you looked at a constellation that you saw within those and you would name your constellation and you would look and see what they are and you would make a story of how it was created.
So that was a really great opportunity for some interdisciplinary activities. It wasn't just all science. They did both creative writing, work through the creative writing process to write about the story of how their constellation was formed. So I really enjoyed seeing that there was math, language arts, science, history was involved as well. So it was nice to see all of those. And then this is some of more of the night outdoor activities. Yep, so again, more of the outdoor stuff. Little night performance there. And then, do you guys want to talk about this?
Yeah, so there was another school that came. It was the German International School of Boston. And yeah, they're 8th grade, and we had like pulled out like a bunch of chess. All of them started like playing chess with us. So that was fun. Yeah, there was like 30 minutes of rec time between every lesson.
Yeah, so it was a unique opportunity for kids to meet students from another country, and it was nice because we not only had like the sports side, but there was also the chess side because I brought, of course, my chess with me, and the kids just grabbed boards, sat down, taught our kids taught them some mini games. It was a really, really cool interaction that otherwise we never would have met students from Germany, so it was pretty cool opportunity there. And then
So on the last night at ecology school, they gave us an opportunity to do a little campfire with marshmallows. So we got marshmallows and sticks, and we all were around the fire roasting our marshmallows.
So we would like to take a moment to thank all the businesses in town who donated to our raffle calendar. That's what really made our trip possible. We were able to sell quite a bit. We also had some people sponsor, PTO sponsored some of our students. Officer Dienhofer sponsored one of our students as well. I don't know if that was you or the police department in general, but thank you for sponsoring. So we had a whole community come together to make this happen. And it was an absolutely phenomenal experience, I think, for not only the students, but also for the teachers to bond with our students. It could have been better timing for us to get to them at the start of the year, which I think has really made an impact in the classroom. So it was awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you.
You guys did a great job.
Nice job.
And one last thing. At ecology school, everyone, some people brought cameras, and at that time I brought my Polaroid, so I was wondering if anyone would like to look at the pictures I took to see what it looked like there.
Yes,
Definitely.
Pass them around.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good presentation. Yeah.
Good job.
All right, so we'll pass those pictures around. We'll continue with the approval of minutes for September 20th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 20th, 2022 public hearing and regular meeting.
I'll second.
All in
I did.
Jen.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Just those.
That's what I thought, okay.
Yes.
And then the next thing we have is reports, the superintendent's report.
Okay. So it feels like the school year kind of just started, but it's already early October. So again, we're so happy to have had a smooth start to be able to incorporate activities like Ecology School, the White Pines program that you had a presentation on earlier in the year, the Harvest Festival that Brian will talk about, assemblies at the middle school. It's just nice to have those routines back in place. So we are very grateful for that. I did want to note yesterday was National Mental Health Awareness Day, so I included for you an article, a link to an article that several Winnacunnet High School students and staff contributed to about ways that parents, people in the community can support students around mental health. And then also just reference the Portrait of a Learner community event that took place last Tuesday. Dr. Hobbs will talk more about that, but my thanks to Dr. Hobbs and members of the Portrait of a Learner team, including Lauren and Mike McGardier here from Seabrook, who just helped pull that evening together. And I think it was a good opportunity for the community to talk about what it's looking for students. And I think there are people who really enjoyed their evening and talking about teaching and learning and what we want for our students in the future. So I would encourage community members to get involved as we continue to march down this road and developing our portrait. I included just a brief legislative update. We'll have more information on that after the election and the new filing period opens for legislative service requests in November. There are currently 212 legislative service requests related to or with bills that relate in some way to education. So we expect to have another legislative meeting with all the boards and SAU 90 in early December. And then the joint board meeting is coming up on the 18th, so we know we'll have some policies. I'll talk about my goals for the upcoming year. We'll talk about that SAU budget for the next fiscal year, and then we have both data governance and anti-discrimination plans to bring forward to the board.
Okay.
I'll take the pictures and you can report.
Good. All right. Curriculum instruction assessment. It's been busy, but I'll try to go quickly. We have had a lot going on with safety and security. We've got Homeland Security walkthroughs. They're on your packet, but Seabrook's is going to be on the 26th of October. In addition, this Friday, our emergency operations plans are due to the DOS, the Department of Safety, and we're right on target with that. Thanks to the administration at Seabrook for making that an easy process. Lastly, on safety and security, we do have a task force meeting coming up on October 20th. And if you guys don't remember, that's the time when all of our emergency responders across our 5 towns come together. The DOS is actually going to bring us through a scenario with all of our emergency responders there. So it should be really good to get some crosstalk between towns. So we're looking forward to that. And that's going to be hosted at Winnacunnet High School and should be very informative. With respect to data, we do have, we're rolling out a statewide assessment data parent portal, it's called. And what that is going to do is it allows moms and dads to log on just straight through a URL to access individual student reports for the statewide assessment. So that's going to be coming out this winter, spring, and we'll definitely have our 2022 scores in there. So I think it's a pretty slick interface, and it's going to just be that much more transparent for moms and dads to get onto the portal. There are instructions on how to do that. We will also follow up with letters when the time comes. And then, yeah, of course, lastly, I just wanted to thank the committee, the administration, the community for a really successful Portrait of a Learner night on October 4th. We had a good turnout, we had lots of pizzas, and we had some really good conversation, surprisingly good conversation. My table was talking so much we actually forgot to write a lot of it down, but that's a good problem to have. I also just wanted to mention the businesses who donated for some of those door prizes that we were able to give out at the event. We received donations from Walk the Walk, Marquis Lobster Pool, Brown's Lobster Pound, Eastman's Docks, Winnicunnet. We got a swag bag from Winnicunnet. And there's a 1846 tavern in Vermont who gave us a 2-night stay, actually. So we had a number of good door prizes, and I think the event was a success. So thank you. And that's it for me.
If I could just add real quick, I was there and I thought it was really awesome. And you guys did a really good job, and I thought it was better than I anticipated. Not that I really knew what to anticipate, but I thought it was really great. And I thought my husband was there as well, and he was really just intrigued by the setup and the conversation. And we had a mix at our table of even a parent who doesn't have English as a first language. So that was a really interesting and unique perspective from her. And I was really pleased with the door prizes being a lot of representation from Seabrook of people that donated things. And I thought that was pretty awesome. So.
I'm just going to add to that about the student participation. You just want to share that?
Oh, sure. So we had August 24th, the first day for all of our faculty. We had a big, kind of the same thing that we did with the parents, a visioning exercise with our staff. We did the community, obviously, on October 4th. We had that exercise. We're going to follow up with the community through, a digital form, but we're also going to work with our students, because part of this picture, part of this portrait of a learner is going to be student voice. So we're getting plans together to go to all the middle schools and make sure we have conversations like that in advisory. And the high school is going to have 2 days devoted to it as well, where students are going to be able to articulate what they want to see upon graduation and what facilities and programs they want to see in their schools. So that should be pretty enlightening. That's coming in next week or 2.
All right, student
Thank you,
service
Trevor.
report.
Those were great.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? It's nice to see you again. A few really quick items, starting with, I wanted to share with you that we had a convening of the committee that works on social emotional learning from across the SAU. We did that back in August because some of us had the opportunity to be part of a conference that dealt with special education. And at that conference, one of the speakers that we met was just extremely dynamic and interesting and motivational. And so we convened that group so that we would be able to think about inviting Brian Mendler to come and speak with us on the day, PD Day, in April that is reserved for social emotional learning for our educators. All of our staff, all of our teachers and EAs and administrators come together. And so I just wanted to introduce that to you and let you know that we were able to reserve that date. Ryan, as I told you, is very dynamic and compassionate, and his credibility really comes from his own personal experience of, he describes himself as a challenging student. He later went on to become a special educator himself, and he supported students who were identified with very significant learning and behavioral challenges. His presentation offered key takeaways for all educators to support students. We think that the timing is right for this message. Brian talks about strategies to succeed with students who might exhibit some behavioral challenges, helping educators identify deterrents to motivation to get kids more motivated, more engaged. When kids are more engaged, we have fewer opportunities for misbehavior, and also a 4-step process to prevent power struggles between adults and students and what that means. So just want to let you know that it is planned for April 5th for the morning at Winnicunnet High School. We'll all come together, and we will encourage the principals to have the folks go back to their schools in the afternoon and to continue the discussion. Also, the principals are purchasing Brian's book so that they can continue the conversation in a book study. And we're anticipating that IDA grant funds will pay for at least part of this convening that we're going to do in April. Next, I just wanted to share with you on your report are the results of all of September, the amount of testing that we did for COVID with the Safer at School screening. If we add Seabrook Elementary and Seabrook Middle together, there were 142 tests for the month of September. So they did increase from when we started right back at the beginning of the school year. And so that is continuing, and folks can sign up if they feel like that's important for them. And the flu clinic, we did hold a flu clinic on October 4th for the afternoon hours, and that happened for staff that signed up for that in advance. And that was a one-time flu clinic for vaccines, and it was open to all of our staff members who were 18 and older and have medical coverage or another with Health Trust or another accepted insurance. Just wanted to let you know as an informational item that did happen. That's it for me.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
All right, so the principal's report. Brian?
Right. First, I wanted to say thank you to Officer Keith and in the Shades. We held a fingerprint event for volunteers combined with the middle school, and we have 30 new volunteers. So we had a lineup. Did a great job of helping the SAU. So those are off right now being processed at the state, and we're excited to see that list grow for both schools. I want to thank Marie Easton and Melissa Dow for organizing our first chess club. For some information about the chess club, it's great to see our fourth graders starting that. Also, we have running right now in our club, so it's really great to see alternative opportunities for kids after school. Super offers a lot between the rec and SAD, but really excited to start running some stuff in-house. SAS is working right now to put a Gaga pit on the elementary school playground, so we don't have to just go to the woods now. We'll have a great place outside for them. We're hoping for next summer. There's some pictures from our fall festival, and there's a link to the article in the community. For those of you who don't know, we had a big Scarecrow building event on the front lawn. The Seabrook Fire Department and ambulance came over and helped us put it together. We had some community volunteers, but all students created a Scarecrow. We're still up there. There's some left, but the rest of them are being moved out to the woods for our story walk. We also had a concert. We had a musician come in and play, kind of like a big Apple Press festival. There was a concert. We had apple cider and apple cider donuts. So many kids never had apple cider or never had a concert, and it was pretty hopping out there. At the same time, we had one of the ROTC students here. There's some pictures of that installing our new story walk. So thank you to the school board and the PTO for helping support that. There are 22 signs that will be facing book. Page for every book in every one of those. And the first book is about Scarecrow, so we moved the Scarecrow from the fun walk, we picked some buck off them, and moved them to the nature walk. There's some quotes in there from the ROTC group on that. And reading and math interventions are on their way starting. Right now we have the book fair running, the book fair is running in the library, and parent-teacher conferences are next week, the 19th and 20th. Lots of pictures to look at.
I want to come back to school. It's so much fun. All right. So
I know my kids had a blast doing all like the Scarecrow stuff. I came to pick them up. They had to show me which Scarecrow they made. Like then Seabrook Fire got in and dressed up one of the guys up in the bunker gear. You know, around town. I don't know. I love all the outdoor stuff. I love just like the direction it seems like it's going. Everyone seems to be having a great school year so far. So I commend you guys for putting all this stuff on.
I do too.
So much more fun.
The Scarecrows make me freak out though in the woods.
They made me freak out too.
I know, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I don't know about the Scarecrows in the woods thing.
They're not the scariest of
I know,
scarecrows,
it
I
doesn't
will
matter.
say. They have plastic bags for faces. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah,
But
some of us watch too many horror movies.
So this month, next week we have Anti-Bullying Month. So we have Tiger coming. They're going to do a big theatrical presentation about anti-bullying. And then we'll do 45-minute lessons with our fourth graders. They're from the state. They travel the state dressed up kind of like a theatrical play. It's kind of hokey for the older kids, but they really like it. They sing and dance about it.
When is that?
So that'll be next Wednesday at 9
Oh.
o'clock. You're welcome to join us. And then the UA team is putting on this month. Their event is STEM outdoor education. So there'll be a whole
Yeah, so fun. And the book fair does need more volunteers in case anybody wants to help out. Just one.
Okay, Jamie, the middle school report.
Yep, very good. Our middle school report this month, we'll start with school-wide happenings. We had our first all-school assembly the last Friday in September, and it was great. We recognized 37 students who displayed exceptional RAM qualities for the month. I asked staff to nominate students during the course of the month for displaying exceptional RAM qualities. So we were really proud to recognize 37 students. We called them down by grade. We took their picture. They each got a gift. And we're going to create a RAM wall by the gymnasium. So that was a fantastic response to our RAM qualities. We had our band playing some upbeat music to really keep the energy going. Our chorus sang the national anthem. Our UA teachers organized some games. There are some photos in here. They just had so much fun playing some games. There was like a basketball game. We had a dance competition. So it was really a nice way to end the month of September. We hope that based on staff response that we'll be able to run one of these assemblies at the end of each month and celebrate additional students monthly for displaying exceptional RAM characteristics. I've already been told that there's some plans in the works for a Spirit Week towards the end of this month that will culminate in the assembly on Friday before Halloween, which is, we're hoping that our assembly will have some kind of a spooky theme this month to sort of celebrate the season. Additionally, school-wide, we have a committee, a Universal Design for Learning committee who attended a conference in Concord on September 28th, allowed participants to gain a deeper understanding of the concepts of universal design for learning. The team spent the afternoon setting some universal design for learning goals for Seabrook Middle School. We also had an opportunity to meet with an implementation coach who will be meeting with the team for 2 hours a month throughout the school year. So I was really encouraged to see the participation in that conference, and hopefully we'll be able to bring that to the building. We also have a team that will be visiting a K-8 school this week to see MTSS, which is our tiered support system. It's the sort of statewide tiered support system in action at a different school. So we're excited for those folks to have an opportunity to observe tiered supports in action and then bring some of that information back to the building to see how we can implement it at SMS. Our tier supports have started, which is Title I and intervention. So students have been identified, permission slips have gone out for Title I, and students who have also been identified needing additional intervention and in ELA and math. So those groups are starting with both push in and pull out. So that's in general the school-wide happenings. The classroom happenings, so fortunate to have this presentation on ecology school. Really well done by the folks that pulled this off. Our reporters did a great job documenting the event, so that was really a shining moment, I think, for the month. And thank you again to the community and the staff and all those who supported that process. It wasn't an easy task to undertake, especially at the beginning of the year, and they pulled it off. So I'm just really proud of folks involved in that. We also had another off-site visit this past month with 8th graders visited a site. It's the New Hampshire Construction Day site where they were able to actually go and experience some real-world problems that many construction jobs would encounter. So they worked during the course of the day to solve these types of problems. They were able to operate some machinery, supervised of course, which is really cool. There's some pictures embedded in here, and some of the expressions on these kids' faces just with the hard hats. It's really great that they were able to get out and experience some of that real world stuff. Our flex period, specifically with our 8th grade, our flex block is focused on puzzle and problem solving and STEM activities, arts and crafts, physical wellness, including walks and talks and sports activities. Reading buddy groups have been formed with Mrs. Sherburne's classes, where they hook up with an elementary school class and select some grade appropriate books. And they spend some time with the elementary students reading specifically Mrs. Kendallin's first grade and Miss Levante's second grade. So that's something that's going to be ongoing as well. And that wraps it up for me.
You guys are doing awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So awesome. All right, finance report with Matt.
You.
What? With Matt. Go ahead.
So we've included 3 reports for this month. We have the current year expenditure and revenue reports, and I've also included the year-end summary from fiscal year 22, so last year. On the current year side, we are tracking well. On the revenue report, you'll see we've received our first payments from the town of Seabrook for the data appropriation. We've also received a couple $1,000s in donations, which we reported back to the board last month. And then you'll see some interest revenue as well. Other revenue that you will not see for a little while would be building aid, special education aid, Medicaid, and then on the food service program, we'll start to see revenue. That's always delayed at least a month after actually serving meals. So on the expenditure side, again, we are still early in the fiscal year, but we are tracking to budget. The one account where we are over is on page 1. You'll see under special education tuition. That's for our district placements. We are over budget by just a little over $98,000. I will note, however, that special education as a whole is still under budget. So that is, of course, an area that we will monitor as we go through the school year. But otherwise, we are tracking to the budget.
Special education out of district placement, that's if we don't have the ability to do it here, they go to another school, correct?
Right, so those are students that we can't serve here at Seabrook, so we tuition them out for specialized programming, medical needs.
Gotcha.
And we did add money to the fund, like not just in case, but we made a change where we adjusted that, right? In case of a higher.
Special education.
So we have a
fund.
special education expendable trust.
Yes.
And that's a trust that we do maintain for special education costs. As you know, there can be, a high degree of volatility in special education. So that balance is currently at $310,000. We have a target of $400,000. We did have a warrant article to contribute an additional $50,000 last year, which failed. So that did not go towards the trust, but we do have those available funds should we need them. So that leads me to our year-end summary from 2022. As you know, we have an annual audit. We have an outside firm, Plodzik & Sanderson, who comes in and reviews our financials and puts together a financial report. They come into the office the beginning of August, and we do have our preliminary results. So we did end the year with an available balance of $480,479, and those are funds that will be returned to the town to offset 2022, 2023 property tax assessments. Major contributors to that balance, so that includes both the expenditure side, so if we didn't spend what we had budgeted, and revenue side, so if we report estimated revenues to the state, to the Department of Revenue, and then they set the tax rate. So if we end up receiving more revenue than we anticipated, or if we received, say, a refund from Health Trust for health premiums, then that would also contribute to the balance. So in this case, we were under budget in general education, special education, our special education, transportation, and employee benefits. That contributed positively to the balance. However, we were over budget in contracted services and health accounts, which reduced our balance. On the revenue side, I referenced Health Trust refunds because we did receive a refund last year. Actually, we received a refund the last 2 years, and that's really due to the pandemic, where our claims history ended up being less than anticipated because people delayed going to the doctors for a period of time. That has reverted back to normal, and Health Trust has actually notified us that they do not anticipate providing us a refund this year because there's more normal claims activity in this current last 12-month period. Additionally, we received a little bit more in special education aid, just over $7,000. We received some donations of over $11,000, and Medicaid just under $4,000 more than we expected. So, as I referenced a moment ago, we did have a special education expendable trust at ballot this past March, which did fail. We also had 2 other warrant articles that failed. That was the parking lot asphalt paving warrant article, as well as the tractor purchase warrant article. That leaves us with, I referenced the special education expendable trust with a balance of $310,000. We also have a building maintenance expendable trust, which we did not propose contributing to, and that balance is $176,000 with a target of $200,000. I will note that our expendable trust did actually lose a little value because the trustees who manage these trust funds typically have a small portion invested in the stock market, and the stock market has declined. So they're very conservative. So it was we're talking a couple $1,000s that went down, but typically we see increases, but in this case it's a very slight decrease. Also, when we end the fiscal year, if we have contracts open where we, as of June 30th, where we have, we haven't paid a bill yet, or if we have a project that's being paid out of the 2021-2022 fiscal year, but the project isn't occurring until, say, July or August, then that means that there's a carryover, that's an encumbrance that carries over to the next fiscal year. So we did have encumbrance carried forward just over $67,000, but that goes to the 2022 fiscal year. Our school nutrition fund ended the year with a surplus of $122,000. Really, that's a result of the federal government providing reimbursement for all lunches last year. I will note that has been discontinued, so we do not anticipate that same type of surplus this coming year and going forward. However, that leads me into audit control recommendations. So one aspect of the food service program that we are required to maintain is we need to keep a balance less than 3 months worth of expenditures. So because of that surplus, it brought us just over that threshold. So we are going to need to spend down those funds. So it's a good opportunity for us to upgrade some of our equipment and purchases there, and also reduce our budget going into next year. Because as you know, we will be going into the budget process shortly, and we'll be bringing forth a proposed 2023-2024 budget to you, sooner than in short order this fall.
Battle the numbers.
So that was one recommendation, was to spend down that food service account. And then there was one other recommendation from the audit, and that was we had in our ESSER funds, we had a few purchase orders that were approved after the purchase was made. So really there should be a purchase order put in first and then the purchase made. So we are working with our grant project managers to ensure that we do follow those purchasing procedures that we do have in place. So that is it for the year-end summary. If I'd be happy to answer any questions, if you have any.
So out of all the money like spent incoming and outgoing, we had $400,000 extra that's going back to the space.
Correct. That was the important number of this entire presentation.
I know, I get lost in the other ones. People ask all the time. And that's just a combination, like you said, we had more money coming in from things, it's not always the case that you're gonna have $400,000 extra in a budget. And that doesn't roll back into the next year's budget. That goes back to the towns to offset
That is right.
property taxes, correct?
We're not legally allowed to carry it over. That's why we have expendable trust, so we can utilize that unreserved fund balance to fund those expendable
So we
trusts.
take some of that $400,000 to get that like special education trust stuff, but that has to be approved for the warrant article.
Right, so had that special education expendable trust passed that ballot, the amount we would have returned to the town would have been $360,000.
It would be a little bit different, but it would take, but now it has to go back out to warrant to have anything moved over, to move that up to the $400,000, correct?
If we want to contribute more to those trusts, we'll need to do another warrant article this month.
Okay. So we're gonna do the facilities report after.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
there really was much to report on the facilities.
There's nothing showing.
No, so there wasn't a report submitted. There's nothing new to report, just the normal maintenance, which is a good thing that nothing's broken. There's no major repairs. So I'm happy to report that there's nothing.
The building is status quo.
Yeah. So we're gonna go to the dress code policy, the new business. Skip to the dress code so that they can do. Are they doing a presentation or we're gonna review the policy? Okay.
And introduce yourselves.
Hi. I'm Alan Carrero, and I'm a student here at Seabrook Middle School. I'm an 8th grader. I don't know if you remember, but last year we spoke about mask mandate. This time we're talking about another subject we'd like to touch upon, the dress code at SMS. I've read it, and I've also lived through it. And I've gotten talked to, and I've also gotten dress coded about my outfits before. Actually, this outfit that I'm wearing, this is something I got dress coded for. So I decided to wear this outfit because it was my first one, and it's the one that affected me the most. I'm gonna paint you a picture really quickly. It was recess, and my grade was lining up to go inside. We were already starting to walk in when I was pulled aside by our former principal, and I was told my stomach was showing, and I had been wearing revealing clothing for the last couple of days. She hadn't talked to me about my clothing at all before this. She hadn't warned me, And let me remind you, you can't see my stomach unless I lift my arms up. And at that point, I was not lifting my arms up. At this point, my eyes were already watering and goosebumps were already starting to form on my skin. Not because it was cold out, but because the pure thought of me getting in trouble for an object, an article of clothing, scared me to death. And while this was going on, all of my peers were looking at me. I could feel their eyes burning into my neck, my back, my shoulders, my legs, my stomach, everywhere. And it stung like crazy. My breath was caught in my throat. I wanted to say something, but how could I? She was my principal. My whole life, I was taught to respect authority. So I nodded and succumbed to being treated that way. And what I'm about to say may seem excessive, but at that point, I felt like a piece of trash that was just on the sidewalk. And it seemed excessive, but that's how I felt. And when I was released from the conversation, I ran and caught up to my friends. Somehow, the whole entire day went by without me breaking down. But all of that went away when I made it to my Grammy's house. My mom had arrived, and my older sister was there along with my grandmother. My mom, she just got back from work and was picking my sister and me up, and that's when the waterworks started. I got dress coded, I say. She pulled me aside and singled me out. What? My mother questioned. She saw the pain in my eyes. What's wrong with that outfit? Apparently the shirt is too short and it's revealing, I sobbed. At this point, I was hysterical. And to this day, I am surprised I had made it through the entire school day without breaking down. And I hadn't realized it before. But what happened, how she singled me out, wasn't right. And she made me feel downright disgusted. And no one should ever have to feel that way. And when I look at the dress code, there are bullet points that cover boys, but when you read it and when you pay attention to it, most of those points are targeted towards girls, and they also aren't worded respectfully. And speaking from experience, it's hard to obey those bullet points and those rules, because when shopping as a girl, an emerging woman, because all stores sell now are cropped clothing and ripped jeans for young girls, teens, and young women. So when I am pulled aside or some other little girl, it makes us feel like we are the problem for buying those clothes and thinking we look good in them or feeling comfortable in them. The dress code is written to target young kids, especially girls, from expressing themselves, and the school board, all of you that wrote this or have contributed in it in some way, assume that the automatic worst thing that could come out of the dress code. And it hurts me that you think that way. And I'm not saying that the dress code should be non-existent. I'm stating that significant changes should be made. And I'm willing to hear your versions of the dress code, why it's there and why it states those things, and come to a compromise. But I hope you're willing to hear the student side of the story, because we're the ones currently living through the situation and the stigma surrounding this. And
if you don't mind, I'd like to point out some bullet points in the actual student handbook. It states that the bottom of the shirt and the top of the pants / skirts / shorts must touch one another while the students are standing or sitting. There's also halter tops, crop tops, tops with spaghetti straps. Those are not allowed. What about my shoulders is distracting to my peers or my teachers? Or my stomach? Oh, and the point that says tops that are low cut and or expose excessive cleavage. That's directed entirely toward girls. And it feels like body shaming, because those young girls already have to live with the idea that their body isn't enough, or we're told to cover up because people or boys or teachers or our peers get distracted. I mean, we're growing. Like, the one sentence can impact a young girl so much. So when my peers and I say we want to change the dress code, we mean we want to make changes like this. So when us students are minding our own business, trying to learn, the teachers don't point out the flaws and imperfections in our outfit that some of us are trying not to think about or worry about. Because we aren't making the outfit distracting. We're just simply wearing it. When a teacher or somebody points it out, pulls you aside, singles you out, that's what makes it distracting. Because those teachers are making passive-aggressive, backhanded comments and pulling a kid aside, and by singling them out and by pointing it out. The dress code should be updated with the kids' point of view, so it's fair. And times are changing. Why can't our opinions on the dress code change as well?
Can I just say real quick that you should be doing more creative writing and more public speaking, because you did a wonderful job.
Don't mind the sweatiness, I just got out of a game. Sorry, my bad. My name is Marlene, and I'm an 8th grader here at Seabrook Middle School. You might remember I talked also at the 2021 meeting about masks. I'm not going to lie to you. This dress code is sexist. It is. I understand certain rules, but really, clothes must be finger length. No skin-tight clothing like leggings. You want to know how that's worded in the student handbook? Apparel that is sexually suggestive or sexually explicit by its brevidity, sheerness, looseness, or tightness. So you're saying that my leggings are sexually suggestive? You also need to take into consideration that it's not only the rule itself, but how you enforce it. My friend Maddie was pulled out of a line and pointed at by the principal. My friend Maya was called out for her shirt by a teacher in front of the class, same as my other friend Kenzie. Let me mention another rule. Clothing should be neat and clean. Not only are we singling out genders now, but we're also singling out people who don't have an access to things like a washer. So now, the more you point it out, the more you're denying more kids to an access to an education. As I entered middle school in 2019, our former principal led off the year by saying, "Read the student handbook, for there you will see how to dress appropriately at school." And as the years passed and we grew older, it never changed. I'm hoping these new 5th graders will not have to know what we went through as girls being singled out by our own female principal was like. We are taught at school to love ourselves and be proud, but I don't feel that when I walk into this school. I don't feel I can trust teachers. You are not a kid in this generation. I picked on my body for years because of what some teachers pointed out. Our former principal would say, "You have to cover up, your stomach is showing." You know why our stomachs were showing? Because we were raising our hands in class and grabbing binders off the top shelf in our lockers. And nor did I ever think I would have a story to share in the dress code. Last year, I wore a skirt and a black shirt. I was in RAM participating like normal, and my female RAM teacher came up to me in front of the other students and said to me, "You should cross your legs. It's more ladylike." I sat there in embarrassment as my peers stared in shock. I instantly got so embarrassed and grabbed a jacket to put over my legs for the rest of the day. Worst part was, my legs were closed. So instead of going to every new class ready to learn, I was thinking, can anybody see anything? It was the worst feeling in the world to know when I went to school and I'm with my friends to learn, teachers, full adults, are staring at my stomach, my legs, and my shoulders. My peers are not distracted when they learn by my stomach. Boys are not distracted by my stomach. You are. Once again, it's a student's fault for wearing simply something that doesn't appeal to your eyes. Last year, on the last day of school, most of the girls wore dress code violation-worthy clothing. That was simply less than 2 fingers and showed half an inch of our stomachs. We were not wearing visible underwear, like our dress code states. A boy got dress coded for shorts that were gang-related, but he wasn't told to change. One girl wore a sweatshirt that had celebrity smoking on it, but she wasn't dress coded. Only the girls that wore shirts too high up did. I will not be having my own cousins, family, friends go through that this year. That's why I'm so thankful for Mr. Parsons, who finally listened to the students. Me and 3 other friends went together to revise the dress code and finally make it accessible to all. I want to take a step back and just point out that it took a new principal for someone to actually listen to the students' needs. That's why I'm here today, to ask you to listen to the students as the school board, representatives of us. I come to school ready to learn, not to be yelled at to cover up. And I'm not trying to erase the dress code. I get the dress code. But please, note this dress code isn't a dress code at all. It's a force that controls our bodies. Nobody's asking to wear bras to school. We are only asking to wear what we want. Thank you.
So I think we have a draft. Are we going to talk about that?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, Harley and Maddie, for presenting those thoughtful narratives. There is a draft that we all worked on together, respectfully submitted. You'll notice in the draft there's a couple of different sort of annotations. This is a draft. During our work, we talked about the idea of accessibility and equity. That was sort of the theme for our discussion around dress code. And within that theme, we put a line through some of the items that the group felt were not in keeping with equity and access. And then we added some new language in red that does reflect a more equitable, accessible form of a dress code. You should all have a copy of this. Many of the items, some items were removed, but there's also many items that remain in the dress code. Happy to answer any questions.
So I noticed that it states that it looks like that bandanas were crossed out. So they're allowed to wear bandanas, but no hats or hoods. But I thought we had tried to maybe consider, maybe not hoods, but hats.
Do we try to consider to allow hats and hoods?
Not hoods. I thought we had discussed possibly allowing hats,
Okay.
not hoods. Just a question.
Sure, and we can have that conversation. I'm not opposed to
Yeah.
allowing hats. The strike through with bandanas was because I think there are a lot of girls that wear there was some confusion around I don't know what you want to call it, but
Yeah, the headbands up in the hair instead of the, yeah.
So that was, I think, the logic there.
Mhm.
But I'm not opposed to hats. in my experience, sometimes they do they can potentially interrupt the process of teaching and learning because the bill is pretty big and can get put down, so it becomes very difficult for teachers to interact with
That
the
makes sense.
students. I'm not opposed to hats in the hallways, for instance, but once inside the classroom, I think it can be very challenging in a larger class
That makes
to
sense.
engage with students that wear hats.
Okay, thank you.
I love that you formed a committee of students in the actual school that can give you feedback. I think that's great. And girls, I think that's wonderful that you're standing up for what you believe and that you're sharing that in a respectful way with your administration, because that's how change can be made.
Right.
Being respectful, being poignant in what you're saying and saying how you feel, and then, you know, having a discussion, like you said, compromise. I think that's great. And I think that the changes that are in here are much more equitable.
Good communication. So do we need to, anyone else have any questions? Make a motion to approve the dress code, is that what we're doing?
If the principal is ready for that.
I think we are.
I make a motion to approve the updated dress code.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Sorry, just 1 second. Who made the motion? Kelly. And who seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
And sorry.
Mr. Boy. Of course.
Go toe to toe with all you girls. Get run right out of here.
You don't want that. Sure.
Learned a lot in my life.
So I think we're gonna skip to the drug-free school zone piece. And we had a request from a community member to talk about the rainbow fentanyl issue that's been coming up around the country and in the area. So I know Officer Dietenhofer is here. I don't know if he wants to speak to that or not. Thank you.
He is here.
Yes.
With me. My name's Tim Moan. I'm a lieutenant with the police department. About a month ago, we had, I believe it's the same resident who came forward with a concern that these brightly colored fentanyl pills are circulating around the nation. We're certainly in line. We are in line with all the Dea Trends, and we follow those closely as they come across the nation. This isn't anything new. They've been disguising fentanyl and other types of illicit drugs for years and years. These brightly colored pills started in about 2014, 2015. We started seeing them come from the West Coast. One of the important things to know is that, knock on wood, we have not encountered them. We have our problem-oriented policing unit and our detectives division that again follow these trends and look into these types of cases. There are some counterfeit. I'm sure you've seen in the news some counterfeit pharmaceutical looking like they're look-alike pills to normal pharmaceuticals. The other thing to understand is a lot of times these are not necessarily manufactured to target children. They're manufactured to avoid detection by law enforcement. So while it can be dangerous, I just, because it was a concern and we knew there might be some talk about it today, we wanted to let you know that, we're on the lookout for these things and we take these issues very seriously. So when we got the resident who came forward with the concern, we immediately got together with Officer Dietenhofer and started developing a plan with the school to pump some of this information out to the community, the school community. Officer Dietenhofer came up with this very very good Halloween safety tip pamphlet that I believe went out today to all the parents' emails through the school. Email, however you email most of the community members. So those have some tips on drug safety, checking the candy, which I think that's something that every year is good practice. But also some traffic safety things in there, just reminders to anybody who's out there trick or treating. We want everybody to have a safe Halloween. So I can take questions if you want, but otherwise we're on top of it. And in the school, if there's any questions from students or Officer Dietenhofer can certainly educate them. This pamphlet also has a hyperlink to articles on the brightly colored pills that we're discussing. So, and call if there's ever an issue or ever a question about whether something's actually candy. Feel free to call. We'll come over and check it out. That's what we're here for.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just from my point of view on that, like I work on the ambulance, I have yet to see the brightly colored pills coming through. It's still the standard. A lot. I mean, kids just need to know, like, don't take somebody's pills. Like, that needs to be like a big focus of if we're gonna educate people. Like, if your friend says they've got a pill for you, like, get it from the school nurse. Get it from your parent, a trusted source. They come and go. The overdoses, it's right now, I'm kind of in an upward trend. We've seen a lot more. It'll go back down. It ebbs and flows all of the time. Kids do get into people's pills, and we have seen some use with overdoses and stuff like that. It's been mostly of 18 to 35-year-old adults that have been getting into it. I have yet to see the candy colored ones, but again, like, check people's candy, make sure you're not taking drugs from like friends or whatnot. And if you think you've come across something, one big thing that has been in the area is methamphetamines has made a big rear in its head between Amesbury, Seabrook, Salisbury. I've seen it all over the place. It's bad. We just did one on the highway before I came in here. No fun. If you find stuff that looks like glass in people's stuff, like, call the police. They can test it. Like, that kind of stuff is important for people to know. Again, just stay away from it. We'll have a good time, but just be aware.
Try not to touch it with your bare hands.
Yes.
Right.
I just want to say, thank Keith. I think the paper was still warm when Keith brought that down. He came off the press in our office that day. Also want to thank the police department for their meeting with them monthly. We have another meeting next week to reset the Street.
Great. Yeah, I think it's good just to have a reminder. I mean, we all, as parents, know we should check candy, but I think sometimes it doesn't hurt to just have a reminder out there, especially with Halloween coming.
No doubt, and we appreciate the residents who are concerned and bring it to our attention that maybe we haven't put out enough on the subject or some of these trends. We know about them certainly,
Right.
but our job is to pump that information out to the community as well.
And the
Thank you
paper's
for the
great.
flyer.
Yeah,
Perfect.
thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna go back to community paper because mine's all over the place. Oh yeah, all right. So we're gonna go back to the policy second read and adoption.
So there are 49 of them.
Yep.
These were our first read from the last meeting.
Mhm.
I have not had any additional questions or comments.
I don't have any questions on this.
So you want to make a motion? I'll make a motion to approve the adoption and withdrawal as recommended for the 49 policies presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Unanimous.
Right, now the grade 5 sports.
Yes. So we were asked to provide some information. We talked about this in our last meeting. Our principal and athletic director had some conversation, talked to some other athletic directors. I think you saw a letter from our director just commenting on sort of the status in other communities and a recommendation that we open fifth grade athletics in track and cross country, or open athletics to fifth graders in the areas of track and cross country, but at this time the recommendation from administration would be not to expand that to other sports. Sixth graders are already participating in other sports where we need them to fill teams, but at this time we feel between practice time and the number of students that it would be difficult to implement.
Sure, and there's also submitted from a community member some local area examples of something that I did want to highlight that may be an opportunity in the spirit of inclusion for our fifth grade was almost like a sports reporting kind of a thing, which I thought was kind of cool from Hampton Academy. They do sharp news film on Fridays and share with the elementary school on its sports highlights, which I thought that was maybe an opportunity for fifth graders to participate in something like that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That would be great.
Something different.
I think my concern with the gap is just similar to education gaps. I feel the same way in sports. When they do move up and if they become a sixth grader, if they're not playing in rec sports or if they're not playing in other leagues, there is a gap between, obviously, fifth grade's like an integral year. They're moving into middle school, and I wonder if there's a way to include them in things of like practice, because if they could, keep them interested in the sport and or learning about the sport, figuring out if that's how they want to proceed, if they want to move into rec sports on the side because they've had that introduction to it.
Almost like a red shirt option.
Yeah, a red shirt, exactly.
Have them come in fifth grade to participate in practice and be on like a practice squad. They can kind of learn the aspects of the sport, participate with their team, but not necessarily play against like eighth graders if you're a fifth grader. I think some of the soccer stuff could work. And I do know that we both coach the rec. The rec's been a lot of fun sometimes to try to get enough people to coach to get things done, and it's not always the best sports program, and to get more people acclimated to get Seabrook is better at these sports than some of the counterparts that are coming from the Hampton programs that seem to operate a little better. We're working with the rec diligently to try to fix some of that has nothing to do with the school board stuff, but I do think trying to get some of the kids in that fifth grade would be beneficial, for sure, in some way, shape, or form.
Intramural, I don't know if there's ways to have fifth grade teams that then they play each other in-house. I know this is more work. I know there's a lot more things that go into it with coaching and volunteers and things like that, but any way that we can get them involved at that level.
So, I think we're hearing the message. I think I'll let you respond, but I think logistically there are some challenges to that. Like winter sports in particular, right? Our gym is pretty tightly scheduled. It's shared already with the elementary school. It's shared with community programs. It would be difficult to add practice time, and if we were to invite children to practice, we'd likely be looking to add to the budget for additional coaching positions, because to ask one coach to oversee potentially twice the number of kids
would
be
control.
problematic.
We don't know anything about that. Including multiple levels.
I think that's a creative solution to have them participate in a limited capacity. But as Meredith had said, as you increase the numbers on a particular team, you begin to dilute the attention that those kids are getting from the coaching staff, and so it becomes really critical to have additional adults there to supervise and provide skill-based training, because at this level, that's really what's the most important part of this game. Like scenarios are important too, but as a parent, two athletes myself, and a former coach, I know how important skill development is, and you only get that skill development from the close personal attention from a talented coach, which is a rare commodity these days. And so I would hate to think that in the attempt of trying to fill in the gap, Christina, that we would create a larger problem where kids are actually not getting anything out of it because we don't have the resources to properly support their development. I love the idea of intramural. That's what I'm used to at the middle school level, or intramural athletics combined with town-based rec programs. And that the logistical challenge associated with intramural then becomes, again, staffing, because we would have to offer stipended positions for folks who want to come in and provide that opportunity. That's not to say that it can't happen. I think there's an opportunity now in cross-country and track for fifth graders, and specifically with respect to track, in terms of cross-sport skill development, track is a fantastic venue for any student who's interested in any other sport. There's just a tremendous amount of benefit that a young person, a fifth grader, can get from participating in track, because it teaches all of the basic fundamentals that go into any athletic team. So I think there's a real potential for a win there. It'd be great if we could offer a winter track, which is a whole other can of worms. But so I think there are opportunities there to help our fifth graders participate to some extent.
I wonder if there is an opportunity to partner more with the rec to maybe discuss with them about hosting
Getting
slash
more of the students
an
from the
intramural
school
program
into the rec program. I
and
know I
focusing maybe on fifth grade.
absolutely struggled to fill out an 11U boys soccer team this year. I mean, we got mostly 9-year-olds playing the 11U game just because of how the rec had to. We should have been a 10U team. It is what it is. We got a couple extra people. If there could be a little bit more partnership, that way. I do know, like, Lindsay Hamlet's been awesome. Like some of the other teachers that I know, like, hey, find me a couple of students, send them my way. I'm coaching soccer. Here's the date. Here's the time. But if we could have a little bit more, we'll keep working with the rec to try to rectify the rec situation that's been going on over there with coaches and programs and stuff. Just maybe a little more partnership. But I love if you're going to offer the track to kids, that will develop, like you said, so many more skills for the basketball players, the soccer players, that overall, I mean, get them in shape running. That's what I do.
Run them out.
I just run them.
And the sports reporting, I think, would be awesome. Or announcing. Like
because
that
gives
learn
something
those
else for kids to get into sports that may not be 100% into actually playing them, but they're like super big fans and stuff. It's just another aspect.
And I think it's something that
it's wicked creative.
Overlooked with sports is these young kids can get so much out of observing the older kids. You don't necessarily have to be playing, but it's that development of muscle memory and just watching good examples is really, really critical. I think it's a great potential solution to partner with the rec also, with the emphasis on the fifth graders. I think that has a lot of potential.
Does field hockey, isn't field hockey fifth grade also, or no?
No.
That's only sixth grade?
Yep.
Oh.
There's a Warriors to Be program, I think that's what you're
That's,
thinking.
yeah, that's what Sydney did, right?
That
Yeah.
High school does.
Okay,
for little
that's what
kids.
I'm thinking then. Okay.
We're happy to share information too from the
And it might seem it might get more involvement, especially in fifth grade, if it comes directly from the school versus coming from the rec, because I think some things can be overlooked. But if the school's saying, hey, we're hosting an intramural program with the rec, or the rec is hosting it for us, I don't know how that, I know logistics with who is in control and who handles.
Yeah, like, hey guys, like, we know your fifth graders want to play soccer. Here's the soccer programs over at the rec, go see Pat and Christina, go see these, like, just a little bit of extra help would be.
Basketball's never an issue with that.
If anything, they have waiting lists.
Yeah. But other sports become.
All right.
Anyway, great.
So
Thank you.
we don't have to vote anything on that, correct? All right, so new business,
Matt, did you want to speak to awarded bid for the Outdoor Pavilion?
Yes, so the bid process has concluded for the proposed construction of 2 outdoor learning pavilions. So that was part of the ESSER plan that we had presented to the board this past year. And bids were sent directly to 8 vendors and 3 submitted bids. So we are recommending award of bid to Backyard Showcase in the amount of $75,616. And again, that will be funded via the ESSER grant.
Why is that number so much lower? then,
It doesn't include.
I mean, I like it.
Doesn't include the footings, right? That's all.
Yeah, so how does that?
It does not include the footing, so we'll be contracting a separate vendor to provide the footings. So, but that will fall under the RP threshold, so we'll just be able to get quotes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we need a motion to accept it. Make a motion to accept the bid for the outdoor pavilion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Now the policy for IKB homework.
Yes, the board had requested that this be added to the agenda from the last meeting, and I know both principals, you want to weigh in? But we included it here for you. Essentially, as written, it's really about homework being purposeful, needing to be planned and organized, evaluated and returned to students. And some teachers may give homework, may assign homework. If homework is used, the teacher will explain to students how it relates to their reporting and should be an application or adaptation of a classroom experience. Not that I don't think people do this, but it says also that it shouldn't be assigned for disciplinary purposes. I think there was some conversation from board members with an interest in potentially doing away with homework. So I think that's kind of where the conversation begins. And I don't know, Brian, if you wanted to start.
Sure, so I did some basic communication with our staff and meeting with teams, and my initial thought after meeting with our teachers was that I'd really like to come back and to take a concerted effort and make it clear what our expectations are with homework and to make sure that it's meaningful for each grade level, because it also is part of our home school connection, especially at elementary school, underlying the importance of early literacy. So for me, if we were going to remove this policy, I really would prefer to go back to my staff and say, what can we do to make sure our homework is more meaningful and that it's more accessible for students, keeping in mind some of the activity work that we're working on as a district. Because I know that there was some concern about how will students be ready for the expectations as they progress in high school, college, with time management, homework are a requirement. So, homework is definitely something that we do send home at every grade level, but I think we can do a better job of making sure that it's organized as a school. And I would love that opportunity to go back and take your direction on that as far as making sure it's more meaningful.
Like you said, with some of the things that you guys have been talking about with the equity, it's like you have some families that are well present with the schoolwork and stuff that comes home. You can explain stuff to them, and then there's other kids that don't have anything, and it kind of gets swapped. Now, does that homework get graded differently for that kid that has nobody to help him out? And then the other, there are parents that will do somebody's homework because if it's going to get graded a certain way, is it an actual usable tool to evaluate how well a student does? If you guys can come up with a way to make things more fair and more streamlined, I'm definitely willing to look at it. I mean, I know a lot of parents like to see homework go away because a lot of the parents will wind up doing all of the homework, and a lot of that can be difficult and managing that. But if it could be more pointed towards things, and then again, fair to everyone on how you evaluate a student's homework. Again, like if somebody comes back and doesn't have it done, you holding against them because they didn't do it because they had no one to drive them and help them do it, or there's a lot of things that I feel that are up in the air with stuff like that.
I really like to work with our staff on making sure that it's a communication piece that goes on support plans with it. We also have an enrollment in SAS of 120 students, and so some of those students who do not have the support at home have it right here at school. And if it means they're getting 3 extra books in their backpack every week, so they have some books at home that they would have had, I hate to stop our teachers from doing those types of things.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and there is something to worksheets too. I mean, I don't want to commit to say like, oh, worksheets are best, but there is something to practicing what you're learning in school. And I think as long as it's not becoming something where you're spending hours every night doing homework, I think, like you said, at SAS, they have, most of the time when my kids come home, they have that stuff already done because they have a time at SAS specifically for homework. And there are staff members there to help in those scenarios too, which I think is helpful. So it is that balance of equity versus the need for practice and
There's
just
a lot of kids that don't go to SAS though.
right. No, I think
So,
yeah,
I mean, a lot of children just go home to an empty house.
right.
No parents. So I think that maybe, like you said, you know, maybe stressing to the the student, maybe you send something out to the parents, but maybe in a way that the student knows that, just make an effort, that it's not a matter of that it has to be right, that it's not, this isn't gonna, affect your grade. Maybe it's more of just as long as you make an effort, you try to do it, you show that you tried to do it, and then the next day, maybe the teacher can go over it, because there's gonna be students that, yeah, they're not even gonna take it out of their backpack, and they're not even gonna bring it home, because they know they don't have to do it. But then there's the students that really go home and they get stressed out and they struggle. As long as, I guess, maybe that they all know, as long as you make an effort, it's not a right or wrong answer, that we can go over it tomorrow in class, but it gives them some sort of responsibility, you know what I mean? Something like that. And so that was my point is that some kids don't go to SAS, some kids go to sports, and by the time they get out of sports, because I personally believe that school comes first. If your kids are doing sports, I feel like school comes first, and you have to keep up in your grades if you want to play sports. But at the same time, life is busy. These kids are just as tired as we are, so as long as they think they know that, just make an effort, try, just don't blow it off, that,
Yeah, this is like a second level of helping.
Right.
You need the memorization for the math. It's only
Thanks,
going to get better
girls.
when you practice and do all of that. And I mean, again, you guys, the staff does a great job of identifying kids that need extra help
Yes.
and whatnot. I don't feel like there's a big all right,
They're not gonna know.
this guy's struggling. We're gonna railroad
Right.
him or her because they're not getting it done. But again, if you can go to your staff and figure that portion out, I mean, I don't want to strike homework completely away, like take away a tool from your guys' toolbox. Again, as long as it's designed to be, like you said, like the big push right now is equitable, equity. We hear that in everything we do now to try and make things work the best for everybody. So if you guys come up with a great plan, I mean, good, take it back to your staff. I don't want to
I think it's a great idea.
Staff feedback
like
is
striking
important.
it down, especially if you guys are asking me to let me go back to my staff. I think that's a very fair request from you guys.
Mr. Small actually just sent out an email to parents about if that homework's going to start coming home, but that if a child does not know how to handle a problem, to leave it blank, because then he knows, okay, you need extra help with this, I can help you, rather than you filling it out and then not having any clue where, what you're doing, or us as parents doing it for them potentially because we're trying to teach them, so I think that that's another just great feedback that I have from.
And as long as
as a
things stay
parent.
reasonable, I mean, back in the day, you used to get hours
I got a
upon
lot of
hours of
homework.
homework, and I would get home, have to get most of my homework done, go to football practice, then finish the rest. You have no time to sit down and even communicate with the family, which has always been really important to me and my family. And my dad's like, "You're doing your homework. Sorry, kid. Sorry if it's 9 o'clock." But I think you guys have also done a good job of taking what used to be a huge stack of homework and a huge backpack full of books, and actually, like, the worksheets the kids have not been overwhelming. Like, I can figure out the 4th grade math, so I'm doing all right on that. So I appreciate some of that stuff.
Doing a great job.
But you shouldn't have to feel as a parent like you need to figure it out
Right.
either,
Yes.
right? And so if a parent
I
is
do need to
seeing
carry
something
the
come
one
home that
every
they're
once
not
in a while.
comfortable with,
Yes.
it's not your job to carry that.
Yeah.
Talk to the teacher.
Make sure you put the lesson on the top so we can Google it.
That's right.
It gives you all the answers.
Algebraic theory, something.
Yeah.
1, 2.
My
Yes,
kids
I
are
think
like,
it's
"Mom, are you
important.
cheating?" I'm like, "No, I'm just like trying to figure it out so I know how to
Just
show
help
you."
me. Just help myself.
What time it is?
All right.
Okay.
Carry on.
All right, well, we are on to, we'll need a non-public, but future meeting,
So, future meetings. SAU 21 Joint Board Committee meeting is October 17th on a Monday. Is this one just on the glasses on?
I'm sorry.
No,
I
no,
can
I'm
read them
good,
if
I'm
you like.
okay, I'm okay. I just have to scroll up a little bit. All right, and then, joint board meeting Tuesday, October 18th. SAU 21 joint board meeting Tuesday, November 1st. And the Seabrook School Board meeting is Tuesday, November 15th. 4:30. So now we have a non-public.
Yes.
All right, so non-public,
Make a motion for a roll call to enter non-public under RSA 91A3 dash, or, sorry,